Well, not that I've been able to detect. I mean, I spent a couple of days as a blonde, and frankly, I didn't have all that much fun at all. Then I colored my hair blue, and that was awesome. Well, don't get me wrong, I like the idea behind transhumanism. I like the idea of using science and technology to improve our bodies and to improve, I don't know, maybe the human genome or whatever. And I think that's great, but the more I think about it, the more I look around, the more I'm like, if this is going to happen at all, it needs to progress much, much faster than this. And it's just not a driving force in my life. When I see something that gets me excited, when I see something where I'm going, yes, that's exactly it, then I'll start making videos about it. That, I mean, for the most part, it's just a passing interest of mine, if it's an interest at all. And till now, it's been largely relegated to the realm of science fiction, just because the technology isn't there to do a whole lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is there. Technically, someone with a pacemaker is a cyborg, and that's at least the first step towards transhumanism, but it's just not, I don't know. It's kind of like with the whole going into space thing. I was born at least 200 years too early, honestly. So yeah, and you're right in a way that I've got a bit of the transhumanist mindset, that it's just not a driving force in my life. It's not a focus. I'm sorry. Well, the problem of taking one trip in a TARDIS is the single solitary place I'd want to go would be the future. But I don't know how far in the future, because what I want is to live in a world, or a universe rather, that's very similar to, say, Star Wars, right? Where space travel is commonplace, no one really thinks of it, and it's a very high-tech and alien-laden world. That's what I want, and I don't know how far forward to go for that. In Star Wars, it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so I don't know how far back to go either, or where. So, if I had to pick a place that I actually knew, if I couldn't just say to the doctor, for example, take me to Star Wars, I would go to about 1980. No, really, 1980. Because I don't know how to explain it, but I loved the 80s. There was something about that time period that, I look at the media from them, the music, the television shows. I felt so much more at home there, so much more comfortable. There's just something about the vibe, and I can't explain it. I wish I could mind meld with someone and, share how the 80s made me feel, and how it still makes me feel when I experience the stuff I loved from back then now. Because it's the same thing. It makes me almost homesick or nostalgic or whatever. I wish I could share that with people. So yeah, it would be 1980, so I could go through the 80s all over again. That would be so cool. Well, I'm gonna have to go with Clea Duvall's character from But I'm a Cheerleader. Her name's Graham in that movie. She's very cute, and she's very much my type, although not so much my type that I need to avoid her. She's not trouble, like, say, Shane from the L Word. Now, I've known girls who are just like Shane from the L Word in real life, except that in real life, that kind of attitude and that kind of behavior tends to come with all kinds of badness. I mean, seriously, you should avoid that kind of girl if she's real. So I gotta go with Clea Duvall. I gotta go with Graham from But I'm a Cheerleader. However, I'm also leaning a little bit towards Kim from Better Than Chocolate. That would be Christina Cox's character. There's something about her. She's pretty cute, too. So, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Clea Duvall, even though it is kind of a toss-up with Kim. We'll see. But, yeah, that you can get a sense of my type, at the very least, from that. Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't think that Avatar needs a sequel. I really don't. I think the story was wrapped up rather well. They don't need a sequel. They really don't. And I think that unless there was a really, really, really good story to go with it, I would find it completely pointless. So I gotta go with Star Trek 2. Now, anyone who knows me well knows that my feelings on Star Trek are fairly strong. that I really can't stand, fuck Shatner. Shatner, I hate that guy. And I really wasn't a fan of the original series. I found, The Next Generation, and I hated Deep Space Nine. I find I'm actually really enjoying Voyager quite a bit. Except for her love of coffee and dogs, I find that Janeway is actually a lot like me in many ways. So, I gotta say that I was not a huge fan of Star Trek, but when that new movie came out, and yeah, it's like the original crew, except it's, played by different people, and they're kind of like playing the parts differently as well, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked that movie, so I think I'm going to end up enjoying Star Trek 2 a lot better than Avatar 2, if they ever make an Avatar 2. Star Trek 2, I just hope they have more of an adventure than the first one, because, the first one was kind of more of an intro to the characters and the universe, and I would really like to see them go on very much an exploration mission. I think that would be pretty cool. So, I gotta go with Star Trek 2. I really do. Well, look, I was a year and a half old when Star Wars came out, and I lived through the 80s, where, we had movies like Tron, for example, or The Last Starfighter, where there was a shit ton of CGI in those, and I've always wanted to tell stories, and I'm not very good at drawing, I'm not very good at writing, I'm not very good at a lot of things, but I found a talent for computer-generated imagery, for computer animation. It helped that my high school had a computer animation program at one point. That really did help. And, basically, I went to college for it. And then I got my own computer. I got my own copy of 3D Studio Max. And, that was pretty much it. Now, obviously, like I say, my main focus is on science fiction. And I absolutely adore Star Wars. Hopefully you've seen my webcomic, The Adventures of Kinneara Baxter, which is very much inspired by a lot of 80s style sci-fi. I'd have to say that's where I draw most of my inspiration. If you look at what I do, I love Star Wars, The Last Starfighter, Explorers, Flight of the Navigator, Inner Space, that kind of thing. I'm very much about the young hero fighting against the great evil, and, keeping it fairly light and fun. Even if there's drama, even if there's horrible things happening, you don't wallow in it like they have done since about 1990 or so, and I'm so sick of that shit, you have no idea. So, that's where I get a lot of my inspiration, is from the hero's journey, and, from the whole, like 80s boom in sci-fi. Yeah, that's a large part of it. Well, I admit it's been a while. My last girlfriend was serious trouble and serious drama, and I needed some recovery time after breaking up with her. And since then, I have to admit, it's been, kind of dry lately. I made out with this one girl who I had been crushing on for a while, and then when I asked her out, she turned me down. I'm like, okay, you just made out with me for 2.5 hours, and now you're turning my ass down? I don't get it. I really don't. She said, I don't date, it's not good for me. Whatever the fuck that means. But anyway, yeah, so no, I don't have anyone special. And I have no problem with a girl being Mexican. And if she's hot, so much the better. So, yeah, alright. Introduce me to your sister. That'd be, 8 flavors of rad. Well, look, I'm fairly convinced that life has to exist on another planet. There are so many bajillions of planets, even galaxies out there. It seems pretty incomprehensible to me that life wouldn't have started on another one, at least one other. And undoubtedly more. Undoubtedly more, I'm sure of it. Granted, I could be wrong, but I think the chance is pretty infinitesimal. That said, I don't think alien life has visited Earth. I just don't. It seems unlikely to me. Now, mind you, Earth is actually a fairly young planet, and it's entirely possible that some species out there survived long enough to develop technology, or even just to travel the vast distances to this planet, but then, you know, they go to all this trouble to hide themselves, and they look so realistically human, the way the Greys or the Zetas or whatever you call them are supposed to. I'm having a hard time buying that one. So, those are my thoughts on extraterrestrial life. Mind you, I'd love to be wrong about some of that. I'd love for aliens to be visiting here all the time. Maybe they can give me a lift off this miserable rock. But, being realistic, I have to say I don't think they exist. Well, just going by sheer size, I gotta go with Gear Up. I mean, venomfang-x looks kind of weedy, and Mystical Forest looks kind of small. I mean, he looks chunky, but small. And Gear Up looks kind of large, and I've seen videos where he's like, you know, Mr. Outdoors Man. I mean, I think venomfang-x is just plain toast. And then I think Gear Up would spend a little bit longer on Mystical Forest, but I think unless venomfang-x and Mystical Forest ganged up on Gear Up and then dealt with each other, I think that they're toast. I gotta go with Gear Up. Blue. And we're talking like Superman's uniform toothpaste gel blue here. Like the color my hair was in that video that I posted a little while ago, or that I linked to, the one where I auditioned for Progressive Auto Insurance. That kind of blue. I adore that color. Anyway, yes, I have 5 tattoos, and I'll show pictures of those. But I tried getting piercings once. I mean, my earlobes are pierced and that went fine. But I tried to get a cartilage piercing in my left ear, and that got so infected it had to be lanced twice. Okay, apparently I'm just not built to take piercings. Which is part of why I've gone for so many tattoos. I mean, I absolutely love them to begin with, and, you know, they're great and all, but they don't seem to get infected on me either, which is pretty awesome. You know, I got the first tattoo and I was like, huh, that was neat. Got the second tattoo, and man, was I hooked. If I had the money for them, I'd be covered in them. But having been unemployed for so long and just really not all that wealthy at all, I haven't been able to get one for years. I kind of miss it. But, you know, the first time I come into a windfall, believe me, I have another set planned. I have I want to get a half sleeve of circuitry, like something out of Tron, on my right forearm. So, anyway, yes, I have tattoos. Well, I would have to ask you a question about this question. For example, would I have to follow their actual life cycles? Would I have to live out their stories? Or could I make changes? Like, if I decided to be Jeebus, could I decide not to just let them come for me and not to be nailed to a plank? You know, if I were Dracula, could I choose, I don't know, not to try and fall in love with this woman or whatever? You know, I mean, that makes a huge difference, because if I have to play out their lives, I think I'd rather be Dracula. But if I can make changes, I think I'd rather be Jeebus, because then I could take all the shit that he did and, you know, maybe make the religion a much more tame version, or try and provide actual proof of its reality, and I wouldn't have to get nailed to a board. You know, it would just be better that way. Plus, I love the sunshine, so I wouldn't want to actually be a vampire. That would suck for me. So yeah, those are the answers I can give you until I get clarification on whether or not, you know, like I have to live out their lives, or if I can choose my own path, but as that person. Well, I mean, I probably would. You know, I would probably do it. I mean, it depends on what the charity is, and it depends on whether I'm allowed to defend myself if venomfang-x gets physical, you know. But otherwise, yes, I could be sealed in a room with him for 24 hours for charity. I could do that. You know, mind you, I would like to be compensated in some way myself. I mean, I'm pretty broke. I need work, and I would love to have, you know, some of this charity my own darn self. Can I be my own charity? But if I had to pick, you know, like children who are suffering, you know, Sick Kids Hospital kind of thing, then yeah, I mean, sure, I'd go for that too. So I guess the answer ultimately is yes, but, you know, I mean, certainly I'd like to add some of my own conditions to the deal. So, there you go.